But we understand it's all about trust and confidence. And when Stan McDonald tells you that a chicken dips snuff, you can look under his wing for the box.
And like Beebs likes to say, there's no doubt about it.
1 in 3 adults in America have prediabetes, but most don't know it. To let people know it can be reversed before it becomes type 2 diabetes, professional basketball player Julius Randle is doing everything in reverse.
I'm only dunking with reverse windmills. I drove the whole way to practice in reverse. I don't recommend it. This move's called the reverse shuffle. I do recommend it. And it took me months to learn how to speak in reverse, like this. Here's 10 almost for diabetes type 2 with living Ben has mom ma. In other words, my mom has been living with type 2 diabetes for almost 10 years. So together, we want to say to the 84 million Americans at risk, exercise and healthy eating can help reverse prediabetes. Start by taking a simple 1-minute risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Bet he can't say that in reverse.
Welcome to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
Friday morning, everyone. We have made it to the end of a new week. Well, the end of the week, I should say. Welcome in, Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN. The Joel Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond. We're going to be with you until 9 a.m. on what is another chilly start to your day. Safe travels into work, into school, wherever you may be headed today. Right now, 16 degrees. Your wind chill makes it feel like 9 degrees outside. So bundle up if you're headed outside. 256-576-4977. That's the number to the phone lines. You can join us here on a Friday morning. We're going to get you ready for another busy Saturday of SEC basketball, some of which you'll hear right here on 97.7 ESPN The Zone, some of which you can watch on TV. Last night, UAH on the road, both in men's and women's play. The women go on the road at Auburn Montgomery AUM and get a win, 73-53. Chargers now 21-5 on the season, 15-4 in Gulf South Conference play. The 21 wins, that moves the squad into second all-time in UAH women's basketball program history. And as for the men, they need a little bit of better defensive effort. They get a win 106-104 over AUM. Chargers now 25 straight wins, 25-1. The 20-0 start to conference play, obviously the best start in school history, but the 20 wins are the most by any Gulf South Conference program in the history of the league.
That's pretty strong.
UAH in West Alabama. Now, they have only moved to this expanded conference schedule. Let's see here. This is the third year for it. The first 2 years, they played 24 conference games. This year, they are only playing 22 conference games because they are down. We don't have as many teams in the league as what we used to have. So it's even more impressive that the Chargers have the record that they have. All right, so they get a win. Yeah, the defense was not on point last night. Chargers Chargers on Saturday will travel to Montevallo to tangle with the Falcons. So
Yeah,
that's what lies ahead there.
I listened to some of the broadcasts. Sound like they were guarding like Alabama.
Yeah, I know Auburn Montgomery only had 8 players.
And Auburn Montgomery was pushing the tempo. And
yes.
And as Coach Hedgepeth told you at halftime, they had 5 shooters out there. And I think some of what they were doing was not completely unconventional, but I think it gave UAH some problems, the small lineup. And obviously you have to make the shots too. And AUM was shooting well in their arena. They were shooting like Missouri. And the good thing for UAH is they continued to match
score for score, basically. At one point, it was just score for score.
Yeah, Alabama, they dug a hole against Missouri, tried to dig their way out, couldn't do it. Scored 98. If they hadn't guarded like a bunch of lampposts, they would have had a chance to win on the road. But when you come out on the road, you got to get off to a good start. And for the most part, UAH, while it was a dogfight early, they were able to extend the lead and get a lead. In the middle of the first half, I think at one time they had a double-digit lead. Now at halftime, it was a very close game, and I ended up being, basically a nip and tuck affair the rest of the game. But again, when you're still able to play out in front, then it's much easier to win. And credit UAH for finding a way. Until the Mizzou game, Alabama had found a way to do the same thing on the road.
Right.
Did not do that. Mizzou 17-1 at home, so. Alabama's going to have to bounce back, and we're going to talk with Alabama and Kentucky in today's show in the second hour. Jack Knowlton going to join us from Tide Illustrated, part of the Rivals Network, and then part of On3 Sports. We haven't talked to her in a while, but Tyler Thompson going to join us.
Yeah, that'll be good.
She's going to talk Kentucky, and Kentucky's banged up, but heck, so is AUM, and they played a great game. So Alabama's going to have to play good basketball, get back on the horse, and find a way to stay toward the top of the league standings, because the thing you want to do in the SEC tournament and the league this tough, you want those double byes, and you want one of the top 4 seeds where you're only having to win 3 games in 3 days, and certainly not 4 or 5.
So the thing, and you bring up Alabama, and you start looking at the Crimson Tide, and something that just kind of stands out, and it's hard to believe. Because lots of times you get a basket early, you can find your way in front. But Alabama has not led in a basketball game in 80 minutes.
Yeah, they haven't led any of the last 2 games. They didn't lead at
80
home
minutes.
against Auburn, and then they didn't lead against Missouri because they dug a 12-0 hole, and they lost by 12. So you've got to get off to better starts. They've got to play better basketball. They've got to play with more intensity and communication on the defensive end. I'm sure that's been a focus since they got back from Columbia. We'll see. And certainly Kentucky's a very good offensive team, so you have to be ready for that. You've got to be ready to guard them because we remember what kind of game that was in Rupp Arena. It was a 102-97 in regulation, Alabama win.
Yeah, the Tide got back from Columbia yesterday, in fact. So you'll be able to hear Alabama and Kentucky coming up tomorrow, 5 o'clock on ESPN, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. We're the home for that game, so make sure you tune it in. We'll break down Alabama and Kentucky a little bit more here in just a little bit. One other college basketball game of note from last night. We previewed it yesterday on the show. North Alabama and Lipscomb from Nashville last night. And Lenny Acuff, boy, you want to talk about looking good. UNA's 6-game win streak comes to a close. They fall 75-63 last night. Now, despite the loss, the good news, if you're going to take any kind of good news away from it, is that UNA remains in a tie for first in the A-Sun with Lipscomb. Both teams 20-9 overall, 12-4 in the A-Sun, because Eastern Kentucky last night got slipped up. They lost to Bellarmine last night, which Bellarmine only had, I think, 2 wins in conference play coming into the night.
And Eastern, as Lenny Acuff told us yesterday, was the hottest team in the league. I think they've won 8 in a row.
Yeah, they got tripped up.
Whoops.
So, but Dakari Lane did have another good night last night, 18 points. Tate Fields had 13, game-high 4 blocks, but it wasn't enough. Lipscomb prevails. So they only have 2 games remaining on their schedule. I believe UNA does it, and it's Central Arkansas and Queens are the 2 games remaining.
And then I think Lenny Acuff and Lipscomb only have 2 as well. Jacob Ognanovich, who Lenny told us is one of the 3 best players in the league. He played 40 minutes last night, did not come off the floor. Will Pruitt played 39. Those 2 guys led the way with 21 for Ognjanovic, and then Pruitt with 18. And then, of course, their point guard, who's outstanding as well, Joe Anderson. He plays 37 minutes, ends up with 15 points and 3 assists. So a good win for Lipscomb inside Allen Arena. You know, Tony Pujol told us it was a very tough place to play. And kudos to Lenny Acuff, 3 straight 20-win seasons now at Lipscomb. And the Bison, they have 2 games left. They got to go on the road to Austin Peay, who's always, a good program. They're not having a great year this year, so you got to get that road win. And then, drum roll, please, the UAH Bowl at the end of the regular season at Allen Arena.
Yep.
And
we'll be there.
I was going to say,
less than a week, next Wednesday.
You and Steve Moulton, and now, unfortunately, because my Crimson Panthers have or will not be traveling to Birmingham due to idiocy from the AHSAA, then I'll be traveling with you guys wanting to watch that game, because that could very well be for a regular season championship for Lipscomb.
Yeah.
Now, a lot will depend on what happens also with UNA, who has to finish their season, but certainly, and I don't know what all the tiebreaker intel, because they split with each other. So this will be a situation where, UNA wins by 10 at CB&S Bank Arena, and then, Lipscomb wins at Allen Arena. So we'll see if neither one of them slip up, but still a lot at stake. And John Schulman, of course, building his program in year 1 at Central Arkansas. But that's a neat situation, having 2 coaches that had a lot of success at UAH. Lenny Acuff being honestly the best coach in GSC history. I mean, look at the records. And then John Schulman taking over in a situation and continuing that program's ascent. And now we have Mick Hedgepeth, who he's coach of the year in the GSC. Get real. It's over.
Yeah, you win 25 in a row. That's a pretty good resume. We were kind of joking on the way home last night.
I mean,
that it's his first year, and usually, like when they measure like stats or whatever, like in coaches' winning percentages, it's like you got to have a minimum of 20 games at the school. Mick Hedgepeth's winning percentage at UAH right now is 96%.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's his winning percentage. 96.2 is his win percentage.
A 1-point loss to Nova. Otherwise undefeated.
Yes.
Quite a resume right now for Mick Hedgepeth.
All right. And you mentioned Huntsville High school basketball yesterday. All of the regionals are in the books. Yesterday, we finished up the Northeast Regional, and Fort Payne falls to Mountain Brook 52-40 in the 6A girls final. 7A girls final was wildly entertaining. Albertville falls to Hoover 72-84. Now it's a 12-point game, but that game at one point was within 3 or 2. I mean, Albertville had the lead.
It was a 45-41 game at halftime.
Yeah, it was a heck of a ball game.
It was an up and down game. Albertville played very well early and had a first quarter lead at the end of 1, and then led for the majority of the first half until the last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And Hoover was able to get a lead of 4 at the break and then extend the lead in the third quarter. But Albertville's girls never quit chopping. They continued to battle, and it was a highly entertaining game.
It was good.
Before the main course, which was
wow. It did not. I'll just say this: it didn't disappoint.
I mean, sometimes games that are hyped up like that, end up either being rock fights, or they don't they don't
live up to the hype. They don't deliver right.
But this game delivered. It's the 2 best teams in the state of Alabama, regardless of class. I'm not disrespecting, the other 3 teams that are going to be in the Final Four with Hoover. Central Phoenix City, Charles Burkett, state championship coach, outstanding team.
Right. I said that even on the air on the broadcast yesterday, that I felt like Huntsville and Hoover were the best full teams. Now, Central Phoenix City has some great players, but what we saw out there yesterday, I don't know if we'll see for a while, where you have 10 players that could play on the Division and will play on the Division I level on the court.
And pretty much they're all seniors, and they stayed together. which is a credit to both programs.
Yeah.
I mean, Dylan Burleson's done remarkable things. Florence making their first Final Four trip. Fairhope has gotten back to the Final Four. But look, I mean, I just think Huntsville and Hoover, I think they should have been in different regionals like they were a year ago. This should have been in Birmingham. It was a true heavyweight championship fight. I mean, this was, Ali Frazier. If you want to go movies, it was Drago and Rocky. And I really thought Huntsville was going to win the game in the fourth quarter when they got the lead, when Simon Walker made the three from the top of the key. And kudos to that kid for overcoming a knee injury to play really well in the regionals and make the all-tournament team. And when Huntsville got a couple of stops in a row, he had a dead-on three that rimmed out that would have put Huntsville up by 4, 55-51 with about 3.5 to go. And I really think that would have had Hoover on the ropes. And then he had another drive, which ended up in a turnover. But, man, I mean, Huntsville had some opportunities to credit Hoover.
J.D. Gossett played phenomenal.
Jarrett Fairley made a big three to put him back up 54-52. But J.D. Gossett, answered with a couple of buckets. He was the best player on the floor. No disrespect to Dwayne Brown, who is going to Tennessee, and with Hoover having a extremely legit shot to finish 35-0 and win a third straight state title. He'll very likely be Mr. Basketball. But the best player on the floor yesterday was J.D. Gossett. I mean, he was unbelievable the way he played, and then he overcame a big time injury where he in the first quarter, and that really is maybe what lost the game for Huntsville. Even though they, to their credit, they're such a tough bunch that they steadied themselves and were even tied it at 22, and then we're down 7 at the half. Hoover made a great run at the end of the second quarter, but both J.D. Gossett and Eli Stapler were injured early in the game. I mean, they were, they
both had to come out.
Both had to come out.
Eli had a bloody nose.
Yeah, he got hit in the nose early, and I may have broken it, but he showed a lot of toughness coming back. And then J.D. got hit in the temple, and he was bleeding. Probably was going to have stitches at some point after the game, but both of them are such tough kids, and they missed some key minutes on the court. Due to the physicality of the game. But I thought Huntsville did a great job of acquitting themselves because I honestly felt like coming out early, Hoover was uber physical. I think they thought they could punk Huntsville, and it didn't happen. Huntsville, was right there. They stood toe-to-toe with them. Rivers made a big three, banked it in at the end of the third quarter to give them a lot of momentum. And then they took the lead in the fourth. But credit Hoover. They're a two-time the state champion. They made some big plays, some big shots. Dwayne Brown got a couple of big tip-ins. It just came down to, 3 or 4 plays. If Huntsville, a couple shots go in and, a couple of bounces go their way, a jump ball here maybe instead of a foul, then I think Huntsville High wins the game. But credit the Bucks for winning 63-60. It was an extremely high-level game. And hopefully it can lead to, some changes within the seeding system because, again, I just think the two best teams did not play in Birmingham. And, I know it's, people think about travel and logistics and things of that nature, but I still think some changes need to be made within the playoff structure.
All right, 7:17 on a Friday morning. That is a debate that has been ongoing within the High School Athletic Association. It's a debate that keeps coming up every year because
it's interesting because
there are teams though that are within 2 or 3 miles
like
of
Hanceville's
regional
playing,
sites.
At Jacksonville State instead of Hanceville. What kind of sense does that make? And
no sense.
And why did you move Hoover anyway? And you've never moved Huntsville. Huntsville High is closer to Hanceville than they are to Jacksonville State. And they've sent Huntsville to Jacksonville State every year. You want to know what it is? It's politics and good old boy BS is what it is.
7:18 on a Friday morning. Let's get a break in, shall we? When we get back, we'll visit with the phone lines, 256-576-4977.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
It has been an excellent morning thus far. No wrecks, no stalls, no traffic signal problems that we've heard about. You be careful on the rest of your trip in. Maybe we can keep it that way. You could lose up to 4 sizes in 4 weeks with the 2030 Fast Track Weight Loss Program. Find out more at 2030huntsville.com. Captain Nick in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
Tom Luganville here for my friends at Woody Anderson Ford. Bobby White and his team take great pride in their service department, and you can see it the moment you walk into those beautiful new service lanes. And just like a championship team, they all work together to make sure your experience is second to none, whether you drive a Ford or not. Also, check out the gold certified pre-owned inventory at Woody Anderson Ford for great deals every day. Stop by and see them at Jordan and Sparkman or at Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, or visit WoodyAndersonFord.com.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
A wise man once said, if you take care of old folks and children, everything in the middle will take care of itself.
Hi, I'm Danny Aldridge, lawyer in Alabama and Tennessee. In the next 20 years, the number of those folks over 65 years of age will more than double. In our golden years, the most important goal is to be treated with dignity and have control over doing what makes you grateful with those you love. At the Aldridge Law Firm and the Legal Town Center, we're dedicated to help you with these goals, and we'll be there when life throws you those inevitable curveballs. Let us assist you with your legal needs, whatever they may be or become. You may reach us by phone at 256-534-3188 or online with Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. Just remember, we're here to help. Whether it's personal injury, wrongful death, fraud and cheat, or estate planning made complete, we're here to help.
Conference USA is bringing its premier basketball event back to the Rocket City. Don't miss the 2025 Conference USA Basketball Championships, March 11th through the 15th at the BBC Probst Arena, featuring 20 men's and women's basketball teams playing 18 games with CUSA titles and NCAA automatic bids on the line. Find out who's going to be putting on their dancing shoes. Tickets as low as $40. Visit Ticketmaster.com today to experience Conference USA hoops in the Rocket City, March 11th through 15th. Football season and Bad Daddy's Burger Bar. The perfect combination of good times and great food. This season, score big with one of our chef-inspired expressions of pure burger amazingness. Our delicious burgers are made with premium Angus beef, and you can pair it with one of our signature cocktails or a cold craft beer from our huge selection. Bad Daddy's Burger Bar on the Parkway in Huntsville and our new location at Cliff Farm, Highway 72 in Madison.
Wheelchairs for Warriors serves those who served us. We provide custom-fit wheelchairs for veterans and first responders injured in the line of duty. When they are denied the services they deserve, we stand in the gap. To join the mission and support America's heroes, you can visit our website at wheelchairsforwarriors.org. We are a 501c3 organization and part of the combined federal campaign. Visit wheelchairsforwarriors.org.
Online at 977ESPN.com.
Stream them online.
Call in.
It's an important job, and it's an vital organization.
Tweet in and join in. We are 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
All right, welcome back. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond. Welcome back in on a Friday morning. Let's go out to the phone line, shall we? Jeff from the Borough with us. Good morning, Jeff.
How's it going, guys?
Good.
I just want to say, I want to ask you guys what you thought about the, I know in baseball yesterday, the other day, they were talking about the challenges for balls and strikes. Well, in spring training, they're thinking about doing it for 2026. I saw where the Cubs pitcher had challenged yesterday and won the challenge, and then ESPN not going to have any baseball for this season.
Yeah, I saw that last night, that Major League Baseball and ESPN, they've parted ways. Major League Baseball, I should say, has ended their broadcasting rights contract with ESPN. And, well, hell, ESPN doesn't even show baseball really anymore. I mean, they used to have Baseball Tonight. They used to have all these things, all these shows, everything, and now they don't. So, yeah,
it's been several years since they aired that, but they haven't aired it. But I think some of it is to do with the change to the rules and stuff. They change so many things with it anyway that balance in it, do you? You got everything else in it now. So you might wish you screwed it up enough. So as far as it goes with me, but I don't know how y'all feel about that. So I'm sure y'all want faster games, right? I mean,
I usually look at if I tune into a baseball game, I tune in for an inning or two. I usually don't sit in front of the TV and watch it for 2.5 hours.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Also, when Thompson comes on, the KSR, after Matt Jones is going to run for McConnell season in Kentucky, he's a big Bama fan now. Has to ask if we still lost our program, because we ain't never lost it. I don't know what these people up there think in Kentucky, but they gonna be fine, and hopefully they'll compete with Bama Saturday. We ain't got two of our starters down again, so hopefully we can play with Bama and run them off 3-point line. And if we can do that, then we'll play with them. But I'm looking forward to see what she has to say, because I know she loves the poke like the rest of them do. I do too. But they played okay against Vanderbilt, but they're gonna play a lot better. They're gonna be a team like Alabama Saturday. Hang in there, guys. See you.
Well, like I said, the Braves haven't started yet. I'll be honest with you. The next time I watch more than a half inning of a spring training game will be the first, because I really don't care about the spring training stuff. I haven't really paid any attention to spring training thus far with Major League Baseball. Looking forward to the Braves. I mean, we're the home of the Braves here at 97.7 The Zone. I know Ben Ingram was on the Blitz yesterday, so and that Ronald Acuna looks like he'll be back in May, but looking forward to that. But my silence is, I have followed Alabama college baseball so far. They're off to a good start. We carry Alabama baseball here on 97.7 The Zone, but right now it's basketball season, man. I'm not really focusing on baseball. I didn't even know about the rights deal with ESPN, but
it came out. That came out.
It is what it is. ESPN.
That came out last night that Major League Baseball initiated it. Major League Baseball, there's several years left on the deal.
Right.
Major League Baseball informed ESPN that they were going to void those remaining years on the deal, and that, next year, no more. It's gone from ESPN.
So I guess this is the last season you'll
right
see it
now
on ESPN.
Well, right now. I mean, you got a whole year left. Now, could the two sides come back?
Probably not, because ESPN's run by a bunch of meta muffins, so probably not. As far as the mothership in Connecticut, look how many mistakes they've made. It's basically been a rudderless ship for a long time.
Right.
Right. Most of their programming is unwatchable. Let's be honest. The only thing that you watch, and I watch now, is the college football,
college game day.
Yeah, I don't know, whatever. I just see the little snippets with Saban. I don't even really watch that from start to finish. But I watch college football. I watch college basketball, and when the College World Series comes along, I watch it and put Carl Ravitch on mute. Because he's pathetic. Because remember, all these conferences are playing 500 ball.
That's
how stupid that guy is.
Oh my goodness.
Did you ever ask Mick about that, by the way?
No, not yet. Not yet. He he was a little testy at halftime.
Oh, I could tell.
So it was twofold. Number one, Blake Campbell was fouled at the closing seconds of the first half.
I heard that as well. Steve Moulton, he was fouled. He was.
No, he was.
Yeah.
And Mick was yelling at the refs.
Right.
As they were leaving the floor, Mick was getting his 2 cents in.
Right.
So he comes over to me, and he's already heated. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm only getting one question here at the half. So we get it in. And we go into the locker room, and we're sitting there, and Mick comes in, and it was the most passionate, most vocal, most demonstrative. I don't know what other words I can use in there to describe what Mick Hedgespeth was at halftime to his own team last night. He was trying to get the fire lit under their you-know-whats.
Right.
It worked because they got enough stops to get the win in. All right, let's get 7:20. Let's get a break in. A comical story out of Miami involving Carson Beck and his girlfriend.
Here we go.
You'll love this.
That's going to be just I can't imagine this is going to end well for Mario. Come on.
It's funny when you hear it.
I haven't heard it, but I can't wait.
You'll love this. And then there was some college football. We the one thing, because we had all of this stuff going on,
right?
The Big Ten and the SEC have had their meetings.
Yeah, we've kind of
we've touched on it, but we'll fill everybody in of what happened in the Big Easy. All that and more coming up next. Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. A partly sunny sky this afternoon. We're going to be a little warmer today compared to what we saw yesterday across the Tennessee Valley, but temperature's still going to be on the chillier end of the spectrum. Highs climbing into the upper 30s and lower 40s. We're also going to be slightly warmer as we head into the overnight. Temperatures dropping into the low and mid 20s. A mostly to partly sunny sky for Saturday afternoon. Temperatures climbing into the upper 40s and lower 50s, dropping into the upper 20s, lower 30s through the overnight early Sunday morning. A mostly sunny sky Sunday afternoon. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
It has been an excellent morning thus far. No wrecks, no stalls, no traffic signal problems that we've heard about. You be careful on the rest of your trip in. Maybe we can keep it that way. You could lose up to 4 sizes in 4 weeks with the 2030 Fast Track Weight Loss Program. Find out more at 2030huntsville.com. Captain Nick in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
The company is Eagle Masonry and Insulation, but did you know they're also Eagle Landscaping and Dirt Work? Eagle can take care of all your landscaping needs, including irrigation, sod work, and planting, both plants and trees. On the dirt work side, Eagle can grade and build your pads, haul dirt in or out, and even do erosion control. Philip Love and his team can do it all for you. The website is the same, insulatewitheagle.com, as is the phone number, 256-755-1556. Give them a call and see what Eagle can do for you. Eagle saves you time. Eagle saves you money.
I'm here with Vice President of Mortgage from Bank of Frank Ewing, John Kendall. And John, if you're hearing this commercial right now and you're thinking of getting a new house, boy, oh boy, do you guys have a deal.
We do. It's a grant. $25,000 if you're a veteran, $20,000 if you're not a veteran. This can be used for closing costs, down payments.
Very simple. All you have to do is give Bank of Frank Ewing a call at
256-507-9180.
And how long does this process take?
Oh, it takes just a few minutes, maybe 15, 30 minutes on the phone. We'll send you a link and you fill that out in your own time. We'll approve you.
Who would not want $25,000 for a new house? John Kendall, give them the phone number and online address one more time.
256-507-9180 or at bankoffrankewing.com.
It's Bank of Frank Ewing giving you $25,000 for a new house. Bank of Frank Ewing in Hazel Green is an FDIC insured bank as well as an equal housing lender.
NMLS number 446707.
Hey folks, this is Arthur Seaton, managing partner at University Kia, proudly saying roll tide and war eagle. Stop into University Kia today and shop one of the area's largest selection of new Kias, including Fortes, Seltos, Telluride, and Popular Carnival, and fully electric EV6. View all the great specials at universitykia.com and get pre-approved in minutes so you can drive home your new Kia you really want, because we want to see you in a University Kia.
What does it mean to be a part of the Southeastern Conference? That you scheduled your wedding and even your child's birth around your school's game? Of course, but it means more than that. It means you're home to hundreds of Fulbright, Truman, Goldwater, and Rhodes Scholars. It means starting out as the birthplace of American public higher education, and now leading the way in unmanned spacecraft. This is the SEC, and here it just means more. What does it mean to be a part of the Southeastern Conference? That there's an honest-to-goodness chandelier in your tailgate tent? Perhaps, but it means more than that. It means pioneering medical solutions to predict new flu viruses. It means leading globally diverse teams to eliminate starvation in developing countries. And it means being home to one of the nation's top cybersecurity programs. This is the SEC. And here, it just means more.
We are your home for March Madness.
Hit the corner. James, right corner three. Oh, it's a Tennessee blitz. The Volunteers dominating the Creighton Blue Jays in the second half.
We are 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
All right, welcome back. Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond, Friday morning, 7:34. Welcome back into the program, into the show. Here is some first world college football problems that are just you laugh now because this is so NIL. It's not even funny.
Right.
At first, I thought it was a parody site when I read this. I thought, oh, this is fake.
Okay. A lot of fake stuff out there.
There is. But then I double-checked it. It's not fake.
Uh-oh.
Miami Hurricanes quarterback Carson Beck
Mm-hmm.
and his girlfriend, Hannah Cavender.
And she's a basketball player at Miami.
Basketball player at Miami.
Right.
He's got a lot of NIL money value as well.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them had their vehicles stolen.
The same day?
Yeah. Hannah had her SUV stolen. And here you go. You'll like this one. Carson Beck had his Mercedes and Lamborghini stolen.
Hold on. Whoa. Somebody told me that he got rid of the Lamborghini before he left Athens. So he had two cars?
He had his Mercedes and his Lamborghini stolen.
So wait a minute. They had three cars stolen in one day.
Yeah.
So this is Grand Theft Auto reality show.
In Miami.
Of course it's Miami. Of course you'd have three cars stolen. Are they living together? Was it stolen from the same property?
I would imagine they're living together, yes.
I mean, where do they live?
2205 South Street, Miami. I don't.
Good God, you're making millions in NIL. Live in a gated community with a gate or something on it, especially if you're driving cars like that.
That's what I thought was funny is that
you got to have a garage. Didn't they have a garage?
I don't know. I don't know. All I know is that I laughed at this because I was like, this is where we are in college football, where a college football starting quarterback. I mean, it used to be you could be driving just some banged up old pickup truck
like
or
the dude from the program.
Yes, or something. I mean, it wasn't the greatest of all vehicles, but you were
or the replacements.
Yes, or you were happy to have something. Now you have a starting quarterback who had not one but two of his high-end vehicles
and said he got rid of the Lamborghini. Well, did they find the cars?
Now they've located Hannah Cavender's SUV. But they apparently, I don't know the latest, but I do not believe they have located the Mercedes or the Lamborghini.
Well, you know where they are. They're at some chop shop, in Miami getting,
chopped up.
Yeah, chopped up and shipped out. And they're probably selling the parts. Probably using Carson Beck's name.
I just thought that was pretty
this
funny.
radiator is from the Lamborghini of Carson Beck.
You can have it signed and autographed, and it'd be up on Amazon or eBay.
Then he'll throw it to the other team. I mean, what if you get your car jacked? What happens? Yeah, do you still have to keep making payments? I mean, I
guess
don't know.
you can turn that into the insurance company.
I guess.
Brian Bellamy, what happens if your car gets stolen?
I mean, I've always said, why are you driving a Lamborghini anyway? I mean, you don't need to be driving a Lamborghini in Athens, Georgia, and now Miami. Good Lord.
No, it'd fit in Miami.
Whatever.
Take it down to South Beach. You can pick up anything you want.
I didn't say that. I'm not getting blamed.
I was talking about food.
I'm not. Whatever.
256-576-4977. That's the number to the phone lines. That does kind of usher us into college football.
We get a message from a listener saying that I know you talked about the SUV being located. I'm talking about for the girlfriend.
Right.
According to our listener, he said he thought he read she got her car back.
She did get her car back.
So
That's
she
what we
did
said.
get it
Yeah,
back.
when
Okay,
she
that
got
is
her
correct.
SUV back. She got her SUV back, but the latest is
now we're all getting a message that his cars are in the impound yard in Athens. What is this? His cars are in the impound yard. Did he not make the payments? Is that what happened? He got repoed? Oh my Lord.
No.
Oh, give me a break.
That's probably somebody having fun with you.
Maybe it might be. I don't know. Could be. Because again, I didn't hear much about this story, so I'll be free to admit.
Well, it happened 22 hours. I mean, it's come out about 22 hours ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there you go.
Well, Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
Vice City.
It was a game.
Yeah, it was.
Was there?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think Johnny Boy and
well, I mean, you guarantee you, I have never played
and our
it.
guy Squirrel. I think they probably played it quite a bit.
Are the video games today like they were like they were in the past, where you could
It's a
actually
John
beat the
question.
system? Remember, like you would try to beat Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, and stuff. I mean, you would try to get all the way to the end of it.
Well, the only thing about those back in them days was trying to get extra, free credits and stuff.
Yes, that was the best.
Okay, now we're being told it is a joke that they're not in the impound yard in Athens.
See, I knew they weren't in the impound. I mean, that would be funny though.
Well, I thought, well, maybe he quit making the payments because he threw so many interceptions. And you never know these FanDuel things and all that kind of stuff. Maybe he got in some hot water. Maybe that's the real reason he had to leave Athens. I'm kidding,
So the Big Ten and the SEC want to rule the college football world, and there's been a lot made of their meetings over the past few days in the Big Easy between the two conferences.
Yeah.
And basically, just keep in mind that whatever the Big Ten and the SEC discuss, whatever comes out of those meetings in New Orleans, when they take it in front of the rest of the college football world, the other conferences, everything has to be unanimous. Everything. So that means the Big 12, the ACC, everybody will have to be involved and be on board with it. So I don't know if any of it will happen, but the one thing for sure is that the Big Ten and the SEC really want to change the seeding process that would eliminate the top 4 seeds and first round buys for conference champions.
Mm-hmm.
That's the real thing that they really want. The ACC is not on board with that. The Big 12, Brett Yormark, is not on board with that because, number one, it takes away guaranteed money if you are in that bye spot, because you get the bye, you automatically get into the quarterfinals, and that's another $4 or $8 million. And so they are not, both of those conferences are not on board with it. They have come out and said that. There's going to be pushback. What will ultimately happen? Will the Big Ten and the SEC get what they want, or will the ACC and the Big 12 actually have the kahunas to stand up to the two and say, look, it's not going to happen?
It'll be a compromise. I mean, that's what will happen. They're going to expand the playoff. It'll be 14. Wouldn't surprise me if it ends up being 16 games to reflect what we see on the FCS level. But yeah, I think the SEC and the Big Ten are going to flex. They've got all the money. I mean, the Big 12 and the ACC right now do not. I'm sorry. But I don't think, this alliance that they want to make, I think they'll be an alliance probably schedule-wise. They'll probably play each other. And it wouldn't surprise me, and I think it'll be good for the SEC. I think it would be good for a 9th SEC game. Of course, some of these coaches are going to bitch because they're afraid they're going to get fired because of an extra SEC game. But it's also with this NIL, transfer portal, all this stuff, it's about putting butts in the seats and money. Because when you're playing, some directional school and giving them a guarantee, why do you think that you'll have thousands of empty seats? Because people aren't coming to watch that. Okay, Nick Saban used to make that point. I mean, at least you're selling tickets and it's a conference championship game. And now it's not like with a 4-team playoff, there was very little margin for error. You lose one game, you can still make it. You lose 2, you're screwed.
Oh, the BCS had zero margin for error.
So now, if you especially if they go to 14 to 16 teams, you're going to have I'm sorry, but you're going to have squads with 2 and even 3 losses make the playoff.
Right.
So that'll be better for the game. And
Well, because if we had that this year, Ole Miss would have probably been in.
Alabama,
South Carolina.
South Carolina, all 3 of those. Because I don't care that Alabama lost some meaningless exhibition game against Michigan. Alabama would have been in because, they beat South Carolina. They didn't play Ole Miss, but all 3 of those teams were 30 points better than Rhett Lashley and SMU. Sorry, it's just a fact, And but I think the main thing is I think that SEC and the Big Ten are leading the way, and Sankey, and then the Big Ten's being smarter this time. Sankey, of course, got everyone through the COVID pandemic because he was just waiting and watching. Then he made his move. The Big Ten tried to, follow Dr. Dumbass and really cancel their season, then realize what a stupid mistake they're making. And so they don't want to make the same mistake again. They want to partner with the SEC, which is smart because both of those conferences are going to run the sport. I mean, it's just a fact. And I do think there'll be a compromise with the Big 12 and certainly the ACC, but eventually they're going to come to an agreement. And, I think the playoffs going to expand, and it's not the SEC and the Big Ten's problem that the ACC and the Big 12 are not very good.
The other story that has come out of college football is centered around spring games. And we'll fill you in on that here in just a minute, but let's get Bryce in on the phone lines first. Good morning, Bryce. Got you, bud.
Hey, bud.
Hey.
What's going on, man?
Hey, Drew.
Yes, sir.
I'll tell you what happened. Cars, you said they were in the Athens, in the impound yard?
Nah, there was a joke from a buddy of mine.
Well, that's probably where they're going to wind up because probably the person that gave me that car is taking it back because he ain't in Georgia no more. That's exactly what happened to that car. I don't know what happened to her SUV. It probably got stolen, but that's where his car's at, his Lamborghini.
Yeah, like I said, man, let that soap opera be someone else's problem. I mean, Mario paid him no telling how much. I'm saying? Yeah, I got you.
Because they're going to quit making them payments if you ain't playing for Georgia.
Yeah.
Because that's the alumni that got that car. Yeah. And they repoed that car because he wasn't in Georgia no more. So that don't surprise me at all. I'm not having that car.
That's fun.
Yeah, because would you, if you was at Georgia and you gave him a car, would you not take it back?
I don't know exactly how.
I think he bought the car,
either leased or bought it.
I think he bought the car
I think he leased
from
it,
Georgia.
What I heard.
Okay.
Yeah.
I heard he leased it.
Yeah.
That's what I heard, but who knows? But I bet you that's what that car is. Why it come up missing?
Well, we'll find out. I'm sure Miami's finest are on the case.
Mm-hmm.
What time does Alabama and Kentucky play more?
5.
Okay, and it's on ESPN.
I think it's either that or on the SEC network.
It is on ESPN tomorrow, 5:00 inside Coleman Coliseum.
That's right.
All right, guys. Appreciate y'all letting me talk. And
yes, sir.
tough game for Huntsville. I wish they could have pulled it out.
Yeah, it was a great high-level game, man. It's one of the the great high school basketball games I've been a part of. Unfortunately, the Crimson Panthers didn't come out on top in this one, but in the last 2 years, I mean, they've basically elevated this program to the heights that we haven't seen. They've gone 64-5. They've been nationally ranked, and they did beat Hoover last year. They've beaten Central Phoenix City. They've beaten pretty much every team around the state. They're not going to have a blue map, but again, they're as good as any program in the state right now. And certainly Hoover won this game and has a chance to win 3 in a row. And you tip your hat to them, no question about it. But Huntsville High has as good a coaching staff and as good a program as there is in the state right now.
All right, well, guys, thanks for letting me talk. But I think that's probably what happened to that car.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Bryce.
All right, let's get our break in. When we come back, wrap up hour 1. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Picked up a wreck in Decatur. This one's on Point Mallard Drive at 8th Street. They are reporting it as an injury type. We got one in Morgan County, 157 and Danville Road. The wreck itself is clear of the road, but they got debris in the north and southbound lanes there. From routine care to heart failure, Dr. Randall Burns and the team at Huntsville Heart Specialists on Bob Wallace have the expertise to care for all matters of the heart. Captain Nick in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
Atlanta Braves spring training is on from Florida, and this 2025 Brave squad is ready to get after it in Northport.
And he waylays this thing way downtown. Swung on a fly ball, deep left center field, heading towards the gap, that is down for a base hit. Acuna hits the bag at third. Here he comes, Michael Harris, taking no prisoners. It's a sweep.
97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Hi, this is Wes Neighbors. I'm here with Sam Fleming with Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Sam, tell the folks about Fleming Roofing and Restoration.
Hey, Wes. Our company, Fleming Roofing and Restoration, specializes in commercial and residential roofing and repairs. I'm a fifth-generation Huntsvillian, and our family's been doing construction business in Huntsville area since 1965.
Sam, what kind of roofs does Fleming Roofing and Restoration do?
Our guys are skilled enough. We can come out and address any kind of leaks or issues you might have on your commercial, on your metal roofing, on your shingles. We can do anything, and we can offer you a solution to repair it, or we can replace it.
Well, you guys also do insurance restoration.
Our staff has 10 plus years of experience as insurance adjusters, and we really do know the inside and out of the claims process at Fleming Roofing and Restoration.
Check out Fleming Roofing and Restoration online at FlemingHSV.com, or you can call or text them at 256-651-9440.
Hey, Wes, we show up.
I'm here with Stan McDonald of Jacob Title. Stan, I've heard that every real estate closing at Jacob Title is a very big deal. Why is that?
Wes, I'm reminded of a very impactful statement that I heard from Coach Gene Stallings years ago when he talked about big games and little games. He said he didn't like that comparison. He says, because try losing one of those little games. And if you ever do, it ends up being the biggest game all year long. Well, it's the same thing with real estate closings. Every game, every closing is a very big deal at Jacob Title. Because when it's your closing and your contract on the line, it's a very big deal. And we understand that at Jacob Title.
So it sounds like whether your client is a first-time residential buyer or a multi-million-dollar investor, they can expect your A game.
That's exactly right. As a matter of fact, when you bring your real estate closing to us at Jacob Title, we understand it's all about trust and confidence. And when Stan McDonald tells you that a chicken dips snuff, you can look under his wing for the box.
And like Beams likes to say, there's no doubt about it.
Hello, listeners. My name is Jonathan Dunwoody, and I'm Minuteman Press. We are a full-service print shop that is locally owned and operated. I have personally been handling direct mail for over 17 years and have a great relationship with the USPS. We are the only print shop in the area that is listed as a print provider on their website and the only printing franchise that can use their logo as our partner on marketing materials. We can help from conception to design, print, and delivery to the post office. And with our easy, secure online payment option, you don't even need to leave your office. Minuteman Press, we're not just putting ink on paper, we're building relationships.
This segment of Talkin' Ball is brought to you by University Kia, the #1 volume Kia dealer in the state of Alabama. Located online at universitykia.com.
There you go. What's that? Little Eagles. Welcome back. Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN The Zone. See, they're talking about it on the mothership.
Finally, something relevant. Like, I really care if Jordan Love can take the Packers to a Super Bowl.
Should the SEC and Big Ten get more automatic college football playoff
here's
bids?
what they're doing ultimately. I just think they're holding the people's feet to the fire, and they're trying to get changes done to the seeding processes and get the field expanded. Because if you naturally expand the field, Scott, you're going to get even more bids for these leagues. And, and the SEC was definitely irritated. They only got 3 last year and felt like they should have had more. The Big Ten had it set up for them. But again, the Big Ten might make a little bit more money than the SEC right now, but everybody knows where the best football is played. I know the Big Ten, Ohio State won it this year, Michigan last. but the SEC has, been the standard for a long time. Last time this happened, we had Florida State in 13, Ohio State in 14. The SEC flexed again, and I still think the SEC is the deepest league in the country, and it's where the most money spent, where they prioritize football the most. It's a much deeper league than the Big Ten, and the Big Ten, though they are being smart, they're partnering together, the two mega powers, so to speak, to try to bring change to the college football playoff.
All right, 256-576-4977. That's the number to the phone lines. If you want to be in on the show, now's the time to do so, because we are coming up on the end of our number one. Did you say Brandon? All right, Brandon is with us real fast. Good morning, Brandon.
Morning, Brandon.
So being at that game yesterday, I'm listening to a little bit of a delay of the broadcast, and I'm looking over at Scott, and he's talking about how extremely loud it is over there in his area.
Yeah, it was loud.
And there was two cheerleaders. One was on the other one's shoulders, and they're still not taller than Scott Thompson.
There you go.
That's a funny sight to see when you look at that. And you're like, it takes two of them to still not be as tall as Scott, and they're both screaming, and Scott's got the hand up to the side of the ear. Like
it was loud.
Groundhog.
My ears were ringing from the time we left Jack State to the time we got to the capital city. My ears and Steve's were ringing too. It was loud.
Well,
it
listening
was
to you
loud
guys talking with the AUM game, it didn't seem like it was as loud in that
no, it was
gym,
nice
because you could hear Mick foul. You could hear. I mean, over the broadcast.
Look, last night the execution standpoint for UAH was not great.
Mm-hmm.
In the timeout, told Nyland Thomas, closing seconds of the first half, foul with 10 seconds left.
Yeah.
Nyland fouls with 13 seconds left. Coach is like, did you not listen in the huddle? Did you not hear me in the huddle? Anyway, it's they got the win. I'm not going to keep piling on. They got the win.
Well, Brandon, we appreciate you for coming to the game.
And Brandon, thank you for the Sweet Barn stuff as well.
Oh, you got some sweet.
Oh, we didn't just get some stuff. We got the mothership.
Oh, nice.
Cinnamon roll, apple fritter.
Oh, cool.
Brandon, the croissant is to die for.
Nice.
Well, that croissant is about the size of a frame and claw hammer. That thing's so big. I had to get the extra big box. I don't know how much that box weighed. It felt like 8 or 9 pounds. But, I mean, the crescent roll, or is it the cinnamon roll? I mean, that thing's the size of the wheel that they're chopping up on Carson Beck's car down there at South Beach. I mean, when I went in, I told him, I said, I want all of the really big stuff that you got. And Brandy did not disappoint. So she loaded it up. And that big twist thing that she gave me, I bought that for a good laugh.
Nice.
And I don't even know what it was.
It's just basically it's a donut. It's just a wrapped, twisted, like a.
Oh, I've had those. Yeah.
Little donut thing. It was good. Made a little bite of that.
Well, I kind of felt bad for you when you said you weren't going to make it to Glencoe. So I thought I got an extra 10 minutes. I'll zip in, and, going up there and seeing Brandy is its own reward. I'll just leave that there. And so I decided to go do that and then come in. And I don't know who that woman that was sitting behind Steve was. Buddy, I would not want to be on her bad side at home. You could hear that woman screaming through that radio broadcast yesterday. Screaming foul, screaming you suck. Boy, she was letting them referees have it. And I stood up a couple times and looked down there and tried to figure out who it was. But that was a very rowdy game from the fan standpoint because of the mixture of fans, because there really wasn't clearly defined sides. You can just sit anywhere. And one of the most physically intense basketball games I've ever seen. I've never seen two guys that much blood between two guys and then them back in the game in such a short amount of time in a high school game like that before.
Toughness, man.
That's great.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for the phone call, Brandon.
Thank you, man.
Up against
Up
our number one here on Talking Ball. Time has flown by on a Friday edition show. Jack Knowlton will join us. Alabama, they've got a date with Kentucky tomorrow. We'll preview that one coming up next.
This is Brent Musburger's VSiN Action Update on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. For a limited time, GBank is offering a $250 bonus when you open a GBank Visa Signature Card. Apply today at vsin.com/GBank.
NASCAR packed up from Daytona and headed to the Atlanta Motor Speedway. A doubleheader tomorrow. The Truck Series, Kyle Busch, a plus 250 favorite. Austin Hill, the favorite to win the Xfinity Series race at 3-1. Sunday, the Cup Series and Better Health 400. Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano, the co-favorites at plus 850. Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott 10-1. Kyle Larson has gone to 11-1, and Austin Cindric odds have moved from 11-1 to 13-1. Alabama $1.60 favorite over Coastal Carolina in college baseball today. The Chanticleers plus 124. Auburn a $3.45 favorite over Wright State. For more, go to vsin.com.
WCZN, Union Grove, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
SportsMed is the official team physicians of the Rocket City Trash Pandas. And if the pros trust SportsMed, you can too. SportsMed provides every service you might need for complete orthopedic care, specializing in orthopedic surgery, sports medicine, joint replacement, spine surgery, neurosurgery, and podiatry. And they offer their own brace shop, in-house full-body MRI, physical therapy, walk-in clinic, and so much more. 4 locations and on the web at sportsmedalabama.com.
This hour brought to you by SportsMed Orthopedic and Spine Center. Online at sportsmedalabama.com. Welcome to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
It's hour 2 of Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond. Hour 2 coming to you courtesy of SportsMed Orthopedic Surgery and Spine Center. Hey, they're dedicated to providing care that improves lives. 256-881-5151 if you want to experience that SportsMed difference. We talked a little bit, touched on it. Tip of the iceberg in hour 1, Alabama at home against Kentucky on Saturday, tomorrow. 5 p.m., 97.7 ESPN The Zone. We'll have the game for you between Kentucky and Alabama. We talked a lot about it before Alabama went on the road to Missouri, that couldn't let 1 become 2, and that was the losses. And Alabama gets tripped up at home against Auburn, goes on the road against Missouri, and never has a lead in that ball game. They get down 12-0. 2 straight games, 2 slow starts for Alabama. Can't do that this Saturday against Kentucky.
No, not at all. I mean, they've got to bounce back. This is the first time all year they've had back-to-back losses on the season. It was just the worst first half of the year. Digging that 59-46 hole. They did get within 79-73, but they never led against Missouri, who played at an extremely high level. Well, let's not get anything twisted here. It's a 17-1 Missouri team at home. They're 20-6. They're ranked in the top 15 in the country. So this is not a bad loss from the standpoint of Alabama. They played a quality opponent, and they're going to play 5 more. But again, you have to be ready to go. And they need to get back on the horse against Kentucky, and we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about a big football commitment as well, because our next guest does a great job for Tide Illustrated, part of the Rivals Network, at covering Alabama basketball and football, including recruiting. This will be his 2nd time on the show. He does an outstanding job. A young guy that's rising in the business quickly, and that's Jack Knowlton, and he's on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Jack, good morning. You're with Drew and Scott. How are you?
Good morning, guys. Doing good. How are y'all?
We're doing good. Okay, what are your immediate takes on the game against Missouri? I was watching in Jacksonville, Alabama, the night before Huntsville High took the court against Hoover, but I just felt like for the first time on the road that Alabama didn't look like they were ready to go, and they dug a hole they couldn't dig out of.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was for sure my reaction after that 12-0 run. I mean, they looked completely shell shocked for the first time on the road, and they've sort of developed this mentality of not being afraid, no matter the quality of opponent in SEC play away from home. But that was not the case. And my other kind of first thought is this is what Nate Oates gets paid the big bucks for, right? Because we saw that starting lineup change that I think a lot of people were calling for. They went with the 3 guards, and I do think offensively, there was a lot of stuff that actually worked with that, but obviously it did not give them the start they were looking for. And you have a 9-0 run, lose by 9 to Auburn, a 12-0 run, lose by 12 to Missouri. So it's interesting how that ends up happening. And that was definitely my first reaction. I thought this was one of, if not the worst defensive performances of the season. You mentioned them cutting it to 6. They did that twice. They just needed to string together a couple stops. It was as simple as that. And yet again, I think this is the 4th or 5th time now they've allowed a player to go for their career high in scoring. That's what Mark Mitchell, 31 points against them. Most of them in the second, or I guess it was pretty split, but a lot of them in the second half. I think it was once again, a struggle defensively, and against a team like Missouri that's so balanced in how they score, they're going to punish you for that. So those are kind of my immediate takeaways. Just a bad start, and couldn't get the stops that to match the scoring that Alabama was able to generate.
Nate Oates said, and going into the game, or I should say before the game, he was asked about maybe tinkering the lineup a little bit, kind of how do you fit the guards and how do you get the right combinations on the floor? We saw a little different combinations on the floor in the other night. How do you feel like some of those worked out?
I think offensively, for the most part, they worked out pretty well. LeBaron Philon coming back into the starting 5 felt like the right move, both for him. I think he's finally, he had that ankle injury building up to the LSU game and struggled a little bit after that, but he seems like he's kind of fully back from that. He's a lot closer now to the form we saw him in at the start of the year. And I think pairing him with Mark was really successful. I mean, Mark Sears had a huge game. But I think working off of LeBaron a little bit more, not having to be relied on as the primary scorer and the primary creator, which I think has led to some of the turnover and shooting struggles that we've seen from Mark. I think taking a little bit of that burden off of him was really effective. So I really like that. And I think that's something that can work moving forward. That was the main one I kind of saw. There's a couple I want to go back and check out. I remember at a few points, I think at one point, Aiden Sherrill and Clifford Amore were on the court at the same time. That was definitely one that sparked my attention. They went really big a couple of times. That didn't really seem to have an effect on the rim protection stuff. Obviously Mark Mitchell was still able to get his, but for the one I thought was really effective was having Mark and LeBaron together. I thought that worked for them.
Well, and I know he missed the game once again, had the hamstring flare up. I think they need Darion Reed back because, even coming off the bench, he's a guy that can be a factor on both ends of the floor. I thought he played pretty well after being out since February the 1st against Auburn. He got to the free throw line. He was able to get to the rim. And he can also guard, as Nate Oates said, the 1 through the 3. The quicker they get him back, the better, I think, to get him back into the rotation.
Yeah, I mean, Missouri has a lot of really kind of lengthy guards, and I think you're right. I think that's a good observation. Alabama, their guards are talented, they're very skilled, but they're a little bit smaller. And you're right, Darion brings that kind of versatility on the defensive end, to guard some of those players with the build that Missouri's guards have. And yeah, offensively, I was really impressed with him against Auburn. I think a guy coming off of that injury against the best team in the country to be kind of a willing driver like that. I thought that was a good sign for him, moving forward. But yeah, I agree. They need him back defensively. They need his versatility, his switchability. I think that will help their defense. But until that point, I mean, some of these other guys are just going to have to step up because the talent isn't going to drop off the rest of the way here.
No, it's not. The road is not easy. Doesn't get any easier. Kentucky comes to Coleman Coliseum tomorrow. Now, Kentucky's banged up.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you'll find out who's playing when they play finally. But this is a chance for Alabama again. And we said in the beginning, it's just hard to believe that Alabama hasn't had a lead in 80 minutes.
Yeah, it is pretty unbelievable. I mean, we knew this stretch was going to be tough, but certainly I did not think we were going to see these kind of wire to wire losses, and I think that in part goes back to the slow start, but it's also the defensive piece, like we talked about. They just need to string together a couple stops. They have to improve on, especially coming off of screens, staying at the level of shooters, not letting them get clean threes off. I thought Auburn and Missouri got off far too many, Missouri especially in that first half. And then in the end, I mean, this is you've got to just have a guy step up and say, I'm going to shut X player's water off, whether it's Mark Mitchell or whether it's someone on Kentucky. If they get Jackson Robinson, Lamont Butler back healthy, those two players are going to be difference makers for them. Who's gonna step up and be that guy to say, I'm not letting him score anymore, and defending him without fouling. It's going to be as much of a mental challenge for this team as much as it's kind of a strategic one for Nate to sort of navigate some of the injury stuff and the matchup stuff and see if he can figure out what works, because it's got to get going in a hurry here.
Well, and I think another guy that's got to get going, and Sears certainly did. He had 35, but they've got to get more out of Grant Nelson. The last couple of games, I just think there's been too much of a disappearing act.
Yeah, I didn't think he was too bad against Auburn. I mean, I guess a lot of players offensively had a disappearing act against Auburn with how they shot. But, yeah, against Missouri, you're completely right. I mean, I think him and Clifford Amore, too, just the front court in general. I mean, Nate brought it up in his very brief post-game presser before the fire alarm cut it off.
Yeah, before somebody pulled the fire alarm, yeah.
Yeah. He brought it up. I mean, the two of them combined for 4 rebounds. Caleb Grill, who's a 6'4" guard, good player, had 10. I mean, that just can't really happen. If Alabama's gonna win games, the rebounding area was one they had to dominate if they wanted to win that game. But yeah, I think scoring wise, you do need to get a lot more, and especially from Grant. I mean, he's a guy who, in theory, should be able to create matchups with his ability to kind of dribble and isolate and take guys to the lane. But yeah, we haven't seen that nearly enough. I'll throw Chris Youngblood in there too. I think he's been really quiet since that Mississippi State game. I don't know if it's just a matter of getting him open more, getting him some better looks off ball, but I think he needs to be, a little bit more active on the offensive end as well.
Yeah, he had a poor shooting game, no question. I thought he had some good looks against Missouri, but it's just one of those games. He ends up 3 for 11, 1 of 7 from 3, and didn't give them what he has. But I still think this is a team that can figure some things out. We knew this stretch was going to be difficult. But they're teetering off, falling off the one line, but it's still very doable. But they need to get these 2 games at home. They need to get Kentucky and they need to get Mississippi State on Tuesday, Jack.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I kind of choose to look at it the same way that I know Nate Oates will choose to look at it, where there is still 5 quad 1 opportunities in front of them. So as much as it, if this continues to kind of snowball, it can knock you out of that contention for a 1 seed. But in the same way, if you do pick up these 2 wins, those are 2 quad 1 wins. If you can go out and recover on the road and beat a Tennessee team, that's 3. And you're kind of right back in the thick of it here. So yeah, I think there are still plenty of opportunities, and you're right. This is still a very talented team. The reason they have all this depth is so that they're able to navigate things like this when they have guys like Reed out and these situations. So, it'll be a challenge, but it's definitely one they are talented enough to overcome. I certainly, don't count them out in most of these games upcoming.
How do you see the matchup tomorrow?
I think it'll be pretty similar to the first game. Obviously, like you guys both said, it'll depend a little bit on some health stuff for Kentucky if they can get Robinson or Butler back. But I do think Kentucky is a better matchup for Alabama than Missouri is. They're still kind of struggling. It's really reminiscent of Alabama last year. It's kind of funny looking at their metrics. I mean, they have a top 5 offense, and I think are in the 60s in defensive efficiency. So, I think that plays a little bit more into Alabama's hands. They can run with them a little bit more. Kentucky doesn't turn teams over at the rate teams like Missouri does. But I do like Alabama in that one. That said, they play better on the road than at home this year, so they have to kind of replicate some of the juice they seem to get from going away from home, like they did in Rupp Arena in Coleman on Saturday.
And now, but as we are talking to Jack Knowlton, Tide Illustrated, part of the Rivals Network, recruiting never stops. And I know you cover recruiting extensively with Tony Sakalis and the crew over there. But to Alabama, Coach Chris Kapelik I should say Kapalovic. I always mess it up. Chris Kapalovic, the offensive line coach, Coach Cap for Alabama. They get their first commitment of the cycle on the O-line, the second overall, but a big-time offensive lineman picking the Tide yesterday.
Yeah, Chris Booker out of Atlanta. It's a really nice pickup. This has been a pretty quick developing relationship. I think, some might look at his offer list and not see, too many really high power programs on there, but, his recruitment has only really recently started to pick up, which you just see happen sometimes. But Alabama has been on his radar for a while, and that was kind of why he went and decided that he wanted to make a decision. Coach Cap was talking to him early. He visited for a couple games in the fall. They went back and saw him in January, and so they've just kind of continued developing that relationship. So, he did an excellent job in the 2025 class with that offensive line haul. So he clearly sees something in Booker. And I think this is a really strong pickup. It's a good start to the offensive line kind of haul here for Alabama, and obviously a second commitment in 2026. But I will stand up for Coach Cap as a recruiter. He's done an excellent job since he's come in.
How has the rest of the recruiting class early on kind of shaped up? I mean, they had a great signing day. They put that great class to bed, but how is it shaping up now since then?
I think you can definitely tell that, the difference between them coming in a little bit later in the 2025 cycle, just with the coaching turnover, and they still managed to do a really good job in that cycle. But I think you can tell the difference of them having a full year where they can get on the trail, really start these relationships with some of these prospects early, because, we're already seeing, I believe it's up to 20 plus official visits confirmed, for this summer. They're already doing a really good job there. They were all over the country last month during the live period, the coaches. And so I think it's shaping up really well. Coach Cap, in the same vein, has a pretty good offensive line list, a lot of top guys that Alabama is really in the mix for. Jamarcus Shepard, the wide receivers coach, is an excellent recruiter. So I think it's shaping up to follow the 2025 class really well. They obviously, did a good job there, and they've had more time to kind of build better relationships with the 2026 guys, just with, being more settled as a staff. And I think you're going to see the effects of that for sure as we head into the spring and summer.
No question. Well, Jack, man, we appreciate the time and your knowledge. I know you're going to be on press row tomorrow. Look forward to seeing you there as Alabama tries to snap out of this losing streak and do a rare thing. It's very hard to sweep a program like Kentucky. It hasn't happened often for Alabama, but they've got a chance to do it. As you said, the Wildcats are kind of banged up. We'll see who's available for Kentucky. But, again, that doesn't guarantee anything. They've still got tons of skill offensively, and Alabama definitely needs to bounce back. But we appreciate the time, my friend, and let everybody know how to connect with you and your work.
No doubt, yeah. Just subscribe to Tide Illustrated. We got a ton of good content there. I'll shout out Tony. He's doing a review every week of the Alabama doc that's been going out on Fox Nation. So if you're not subscribed there to watch it, you can subscribe and get a little bit of a recap. That's been my favorite thing to plug lately. But subscribe on Tide Illustrated. Give me a follow on X too if you're on there.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Jack.
Thanks, guys.
All right, let's get the break in. 256-576-4977. Join us on the flip side.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Got an injury wreck at Darwin and Macon Lane, couple in Decatur, 4th and East Moulton, and Point Mallard Drive and 8th Street. That one had an injury reported. Had Grizzard and Rose Hill that should be pretty well wrapped up. And one out in Danville, 157 and Danville Road. That one had a tractor trailer involved with debris in the roadway. No hose, no mask. Dr. Sandlin has the medically proven benefits of the Somnodent for sleep apnea and for snoring. Dr. Sandlin, 350-CARE. Captain Nick in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
By now, you know about Eagle Masonry and Insulation, and maybe you know that Eagle also does landscaping and dirt work. But how about after paint work? Shower doors, shelving, and mirrors, all taken care of by Eagle, the same Eagle that takes care of all your masonry, insulation, and landscaping needs. Eagle brings the same level of expertise to all these disciplines, and they're ready to provide you with a free quote. The website is the same, insulatewitheagle.com, as is the phone number, 256-755-1556. Give them a call and see what Eagle can do for you. Eagle saves you time. Eagle saves you money.
AL certain number 21014.
Are you trying to keep your house hot and steamy this Valentine's Day? Talent Heating and Air has just the moves to make it happen.
That's right. We'll turn that raw gas into heat in your house.
So don't let that love of your life be left out in the cold this Valentine's Day. Keep it warm with Talent Heating and Air. Thomas, the love line is open.
256-503-4490.
And on the World Wide Web.
That's talenthvac.com. No ID required.
That's Talent Heating and Air. Keeping your Valentine's extra warm with love, courtesy of Talent Heating and Air.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to experience Toyotathon at Bill Penny Toyota. They've got the selection with over 700 new Toyotas to choose from. And they've got the extras with Bill Penny perks and a 10-year unlimited warranty. So get on over to Bill Penny Toyota today and experience Toyotathon. Bill Penny Toyota in Huntsville and online at BillPennyToyota.com. Bill Penny's Toyota 10-year unlimited warranty is valid through the 10th year of ownership. Valid on new vehicles only. See dealer for details.
Listen to UAH Charger basketball all season long.
So when we came out of the timeout, Coach Hedge had initially called a man play, and they ended up faking a zone. So the whole bench was yelling zone, zone, zone. So we tried to switch the play last second. We ended up getting confused. So Tommy swung it to me, and I initially was like, all right, I'm going to try and get to the rim right here. We're only down 2. We don't need a 3. And he flipped his hips real hard, and I tossed it back, and as soon as I let it go, I knew it was in.
Campbell to plug it in. 81-79 Union. Inbounds it goes. Dribbling it out from Tommy Murr. Swings it over to Campbell. Campbell on the wing for the lead. Campbell. It's a 3 into the front court for the win. No good. No good. No good. Blake Campbell with some onions from Jackson, Tennessee.
97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Oh, yeah. How about a little Eddie Murphy right there? Little Eddie Murphy, Nick Nolte. Oh, that is good
Nick
stuff
Nolte,
right
those
there.
movies was so good.
That was so good. That was a young Eddie Murphy.
Oh, yeah.
Very young Eddie Murphy.
Since it's XM, we're not on XM, I can't say what Nick would mostly say to him.
Of course, we're making reference to the movie 48 Hours.
Yeah. I can say shut up convict because he would say that.
Yes, he would. That was just such a great movie.
Yeah. Watching Nick chain smoke.
256-576-4977. That's the number to the phone lines. Don is with us. Good morning, Don.
What's up, Don?
Morning. Hey, Drew, I got a question for you.
Sure.
In the Alabama-Missouri game.
Sure.
Roughly about a minute, I think it's about around a minute and 18. There was a stoppage of play, and the clock kept running. It ran down to right about a minute. After that, Alabama scored a 3 to bring it to 6. They never went back and reviewed the clock for that time. And I'm certain notes were saying, "Hey, go back." They ran all that time. Why didn't they go back and review the clock? I thought I've seen them review it with 3.2 seconds left. 4 or 5 point game, and just to make sure they got that last 1/10 of a second.
Right.
Why didn't they go back and look to see?
I mean, someone else pointed that out to me as well. I do not know. I was watching it with the Huntsville High coaching staff. I don't know why they didn't, go back and look at the clock. It did seem like a little bit of a bizarre situation. And Don Daly and crew, I thought, did another terrible job. I mean, it was a foul fest. I mean, the game never seemed like it would end. But again, that's just kind of where you're at in some of these situations.
Right.
I mean, Don Daly's crew, look, it was only an exhibition game against with two good teams, but here in Huntsville, Alabama and Memphis played, and they did that game. And that was the one where the coaches didn't even realize, couldn't foul out. And then when you realize that, I mean, the game ended up being about 3 hours because they were calling everything. So, but again, Don, I'll be honest with you. I don't know why they didn't reset the clock. I have no idea.
I mean, because it didn't, but in theory, it could have made a difference in the ball game.
Yeah, it could have if Alabama kept pushing. But of course they
didn't. So
at that point, I think when Alabama cut it to 6, I think they gave up a 7-0 run for it was the 13-point game, just time to get on the bus.
Yeah, it was. I just
right.
That part that kind of bothered me. I thought somebody said that Nate had asked them to review it and they just didn't do it. So
right.
It just that makes that to me. That's if that is the case, which I don't know that it is.
I know he was yelling at Don a lot. Right. I mean, I know he was yelling at Don Daly a lot. No doubt.
Was that the reason for the clipboard being broke?
Well, the reason for the clipboard being broke is everybody decided they were allergic to guarding someone. That's
I think he was ticked at his team.
Yeah, I never took that as he was mad at Don Daly. He did get a technical. That's because he broke it on the floor. I mean, he broke it and threw it out on the court because everybody decided that they were allergic to defense.
Yeah, I have not had anybody tell me why they did not go back and review that, because they do it any time just about.
Right.
That there's a discrepancy. So
yes, sir.
Just wondered and thought maybe you could throw some light on it.
All right, thanks, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, to me, that just seemed like it was an error by Daly and the officials. And like Don just said, I don't think it had a direct
outcome.
No, it didn't have an effect on the outcome.
Okay, right.
Because it was 18 seconds, but Alabama still wasn't guarding. And so I think that's why a bigger deal wasn't made about it. Don just pointed it out. I think if Alabama had continued to push and had either, gotten within one possession or something and lost a very close game down to the last possession, then I think a lot could have been made of it. Don Daly and the morons were lucky there.
256-576-4977. That's the number of the phone lines. You can join us. Your rest of your action on the hardwood tomorrow within the conference. There is some sneaky good ball games tomorrow. Sneaky good ball games. 7th-ranked Texas A&M going to host 6th-ranked Tennessee tomorrow. Buzz Williams, regular season Rick, 6 and 7 tomorrow there in Reed Arena in College Station, Texas. That's a sneaky one.
That's going to be a rock fight there. A couple of really physical basketball teams.
How about this one for you? Who needs this one more? Vanderbilt or Ole Miss?
Good question. It's been a little rough on Ole Miss lately, but
Vanderbilt's at home.
Vandy needs that game the worst because they are not a good road team. I mean, they went to Rupp Arena and they got whacked. So they need to get back up on the horse and win at home. No question about it.
And then you have,
because I was on another show yesterday,
right,
on the way back from Jacksonville, Alabama, and you look at the standings in the SEC, that there's 9 teams are starting to separate themselves. So I think are just cod locks. Probably, I think all 5 seeds are better, honestly. And Kentucky's one of those. Mississippi State. There's some really good teams, and one of those is going to have to play on Thursday, and win 4 games in 4. Wednesday. Pardon me, and win 5 games in 5 days. But I think they've got 9 really good teams. To me, there's those other 7,
right?
And I think it's going to be an 11-bid league. And I still think Vanderbilt and Texas are in the best shape, even though Arkansas has played tough. But you ultimately have to win, and I just don't think they're going to get enough W's.
That's a sneaky one, too. They host Missouri tomorrow.
Good luck, Arkansas, because Mizzou's playing good basketball, and woof. I know.
So the 9 teams that you think, so you put Auburn in that equation, Florida, Alabama, Missouri, Texas A&M, Tennessee. Does Ole Miss make 7? And then you have Mississippi State and Kentucky.
Yep.
Those are the 9.
Yep. And I'll just say this too. I was asked how many could make the Final Four. I still think Auburn and Florida have a great shot. Auburn can absolutely win the national championship. I think Alabama is still with the right draw, could make the Final Four. They've got to clean some things up on defense, no question about it.
Right.
And I still think, that some dark horses are Tennessee, even though I worry about their offense. Mizzou, the way they're playing right now, Texas A&M. I think some of those teams can definitely be a thorn in the side and can make a 2 to 3 game deep run and even maybe get to a regional final.
If Kentucky, we got breaking news on Espen.
Okay.
Oh, I could care less.
It's about the New York Yankees.
Oh my God. About facial hair.
Oh, good Lord. We need to go to break. This is absolutely stupid. Talking about face. I have a ton of it right now. Who cares? Talking about the Yankees facial hair. I hate the Yankees anyway.
You know, when you zoomed in the other day,
right,
and you were all in the camera, it looked like you were being held hostage.
I wasn't being held hostage. It was just the light. I couldn't get the light right. But it was much better the second time.
I thought we were
going to have working in the email, and it worked. It worked.
I thought we were going to have to pay a ransom for you.
You're talking about when I had to do it on the phone because we couldn't get it going on the computer, and I had to do something, man. Nothing was working. So, I had to do it on the phone.
ESPN just literally broke into programming and said the Yankees will allow facial hair after 49 years.
Who cares? That's why Major League Baseball just said, you suck, go away.
Oh, my goodness. Well, Tyler's not going away. She's going to join us
Thank
next.
Goodness.
She's really good about talking Kentucky basketball.
She certainly is. We're not going to ask her about facial hair. Good grief.
I seriously thought we were going to have to pay a ransom.
They're going to spend a segment on talking about this.
We got to get a break in. We'll talk Kentucky basketball next.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. A partly sunny sky this afternoon. We're going to be a little warmer today compared to what we saw yesterday across the Tennessee Valley, but temperature's still going to be on the chillier end of the spectrum. Highs climbing into the upper 30s and lower 40s. We're also going to be slightly warmer as we head into the overnight. Temperatures dropping into the low and mid 20s. A mostly to partly sunny sky for Saturday afternoon. Temperatures climbing into the upper 40s and lower 50s, dropping into the upper 20s, lower 30s through the overnight early Sunday morning. A mostly sunny sky Sunday afternoon. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Got an injury wreck working Macon Lane and Darwin Road. Got 4th and East Moulton in Decatur and Point Mallard and 8th Street. That one had an injury. Grizzard and Rose Hill should be clear now. 157 and Danville Road had a tractor trailer involved. Still maybe trying to get all the debris cleared on that one. Officers, construction workers, and first responders put their lives on the line every time they step on the roadway. You could make it safer for them. Slow down or move over. It's the law. Captain Nick in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
Conference USA is bringing its premier basketball event back to the Rocket City. Don't miss the 2025 Conference USA Basketball Championships March 11th through the 15th at the VBC Probst Arena, featuring 20 men's and women's basketball teams playing 18 games with CUSA titles and NCAA automatic bids on the line. Find out who's going to be putting on their dancing shoes. Tickets as low as $40. Visit Ticketmaster.com today to experience Conference USA hoops in the Rocket City, March 11th through 15th.
You've got to experience Toyotathon at Bill Penny Toyota. They've got the selection with over 700 new Toyotas to choose from. And they've got the extras with Bill Penny perks and a 10-year unlimited warranty. So get on over to Bill Penny Toyota today and experience Toyotathon. Bill Penny Toyota in Huntsville and online at BillPennyToyota.com. Bill Penny's Toyota 10-year unlimited warranty is valid through the 10th year of ownership. Valid on new vehicles only. See dealer for details.
Are you tired of chasing a roofing contractor to show up on time or even show up at all? I'm Sam Fleming with Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Our motto at Fleming Roofing is we show up. Our goal at Fleming Roofing is to provide the reliable customer service that you deserve, and we have the resources to meet all of your roofing needs, residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. We are manufacturer certified for roof coatings, single-ply membranes, and asphalt shingles. Whenever you need a roofing professional you can count on, call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We are committed to finding the solution that meets your needs. We don't have quotas or heavy-handed sales tactics. Fleming Roofing, we have expert experience. We show up. Free estimates, residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. Check us out at FlemingHSV.com. FlemingHSV.com. When you need a quick response, it's Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
It's laundry season at Owen Home Appliance Center. Tired of that washer walking out the door and having to dry a load 2 or 3 times? It's time for a new washer and dryer. Pick from brands like Maytag, GE, Whirlpool, Electrolux, and of course, Speed Queen. Try the new 2-in-1 GE Profile that washes and dries a load all in one machine. Visit the interactive location in Lacey Springs where you can try the washers and dryers before you buy them. Owen Home Appliance Center. Quality products, quality pricing, quality service. It's in the name, Owen Home Appliance Center.
The best in local sports talk from the 256. We are local.
When you're number one, you don't have to worry.
We are award-winning. Thank you for listening. 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
You'll be set for life.
It's another good one. Love it. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond. Coming up tomorrow inside Coleman Coliseum. Alabama looks to get back to looking and playing like a team that we saw earlier in the year. Now, they can still do it. It's at this point, it's kind of like just getting back to the fundamentals. Just guard the ball, score the ball. The offense is not the problem. Defensively, there's been some issues. Tomorrow, they welcome Kentucky in. Now, Kentucky, it's just all about who's going to be in a Wildcat uniform.
Well, they've shown a lot of resilience here.
They have.
They got a really nice win over Vanderbilt back at Rupp Arena. Still without their entire lineup together. We know when they've had it on the floor, they certainly gave Alabama all they wanted in Rupp Arena. And when they had Lamont and Butler on the floor, but Carr wasn't completely healthy either. So you can't say they had absolutely everybody going full bore. But they've continued to compete under first-year coach Mark Pope. They're in Alabama, where they are right now, coming off 2 straight losses. They need to come out with a sense of urgency because this Kentucky team is still very dangerous. Amir Williams, to me, has been one of the better newcomers in the league since they got him out of the transfer portal. Just a really nice stretch 5, a guy that you can even run the offense through. He's had to almost be a point center at times. But one of my favorite guests, she's been with us really since the inception of my show. I was hooked up with her, a good friend that listened and was very, steeply. He was a huge Kentucky fan, and he turned me on to her and Kentucky Sports Radio. At that time, they were their own entity and were just growing exponentially. And they're part of the On3 empire, if you want to say On3 Sports. Kentucky Sports Radio, and editor-in-chief Tyler Thompson is going to rejoin us and talk some Kentucky basketball from her home base in Nashville. As Kentucky Sports Radio, they have an amazing staff. We've had Jack Pilgrim on a couple times. He will be in Tuscaloosa covering that Alabama-Kentucky game. Tyler will be covering from afar, but they cover it from every angle, and she's been kind enough to join us and talk some UK hoops this morning on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Tyler, welcome back to Huntsville. You were doing Scott. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about you guys?
We're doing well. Good. As long as we can get rid of this cold and snow, would be better.
Yeah, see, y'all are used to the snow.
We're not.
I was watching you guys post, and I kudos to you guys, because I would have been about as miserable as Jack was after that Kentucky-Arkansas game. But you guys, I think it was 1:00 in the morning. Y'all were out in the snow. That looked pretty brutal. But luckily, since that time, Kentucky has bounced back a little bit.
Yeah. You guys kind of nailed it in your intro. It's all about injuries right now for Kentucky.
Yeah.
they're down Lamont Butler, they're down Jackson Robinson, and if you count Kerr Kriisa, who went out in December, they're without their 3 top point guard options. So they've been able to kind of cobble together and get some unexpected wins. But yeah, until you get Lamont and Jackson back on the court consistently, you know, Kentucky fans kind of just feel like Kentucky's treading water for the final 5 games and hoping those guys get healthy by the tournament.
So that makes the other night's win against Vanderbilt. I mean, Vanderbilt's had a good year. Mark Byington.
And that was some revenge too.
Yeah, it was some revenge, but that just shows you how big of a win. And this conference is brutal right now, but shows you how big of a win it was the other night against Vanderbilt.
Absolutely. That was a must win for Kentucky. You know, obviously Vanderbilt beat Kentucky in Nashville. And in that loss in Nashville last month, it was kind of all of Kentucky's bad habits came out. You know, they had battled back from a halftime deficit to take the lead with about 8 minutes left and then just collapsed down the stretch. They turned the ball over a lot. So that's why it was so reassuring to see Kentucky just kind of dominate the second half on Wednesday night. You know, I think they outscored Vanderbilt by 20 points and just took care of business, even without Lamont Butler and Jackson Robinson. I think a big part of that was Andrew Carr is finally kind of getting healthy. You know, his back has really been bothering him. And that was a big factor in Kentucky's loss to Alabama. You know, Grant Nelson kind of just had his way with Andrew Carr inside. So that could be an X factor maybe in tomorrow's matchup.
Yeah, it really could. And what is the, I guess, long-term prognosis right now? I know Mark Post probably asks every day or every time he speaks to the media about when they might, like, for example, is Kriisa, is he out for the year, or do they think they might get him back?
It kind of feels like he's going to be out for the year. They haven't said as much, but Pope did confirm that if Kriisa wanted a medical red shirt, he could qualify for it.
There you go.
So, yeah, I don't think he's returned to full contact practice or anything like that. And even when he does, it's going to take a couple weeks for him to kind of get his conditioning up. So it seems like he's going to be out for the year. And as far as Butler and Robinson, Butler seems closer to a return than Robinson. You know, Robinson's been wearing a brace on his wrist at games. And so you're hoping just get them both back by the conference tournament. Maybe get Butler back a few games before just to let him get his feet wet. But yeah, it's been the story of the season so far, unfortunately.
So they make that trip to Alabama. Alabama was able to come up to Lexington, steal a win there. Because of the injuries, then how different is that team that'll travel down to Alabama on Saturday different than the one that we saw the first time?
Pretty different. I mean, if you look at the box score from that first meeting, I think Robinson and Butler combined for almost 30 points.
They did.
And Butler was kind of playing injured during that game too. But, you know, Kentucky, another good part of the Vanderbilt win, the makeshift backcourt they've kind of put together. You have Travis Perry, who's a freshman. He's starting in Butler's place. He did pretty well. Like you guys talked about, you have a 7-foot center and Amari Williams, who's capable of bringing the ball down the floor and running the offense, which it's just kind of wild to look at. You have some other good role players. You know, Colin Chandler's another freshman who handled some ball handling duties. He looked really good. Kobe Brea can bring up the ball. There are options, but you really, really do miss Lamont Butler in that he's able to penetrate, you know, take the guys off the ball and, you know, be a defensive impact player. And without him, Kentucky really struggles on that end. I know, you know, Alabama fans are certainly feeling, you know, the defensive woes as well. So we'll see. I think Kentucky fans really do feel like they're just kind of playing with house money in this game. I don't think many Kentucky fans expect Kentucky to go down there and beat Alabama. But that said, this Kentucky team has a tendency this year to win the games that you would think they have no business winning. So we'll see.
Yeah, and again, Otega Owe, a guy like that, he's going to have to play well on both ends of the floor. He's a very explosive guy. I was impressed when I saw him play against Alabama the first time. I know he's the Wildcats' leading scorer at 16 points a game. He's going to have to probably go for 25 or something like that. And it's possible because Alabama's not been defending very well. If he has a big game, that would go a long way to giving Kentucky a shot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's the only SEC player who's scored in double digits every single game this season. So he's been incredibly consistent. And without Butler, he's probably the only guy who can just take his man in the lane and get to the rim. So, yeah, definitely need a big game from him. For Kentucky to win, I think you need a big game from Kobe Brea. If you look at Kentucky's wins and losses, it's not as easy as Kentucky wins if Kobe Brea plays well, but it's almost essentially that, In Kentucky's wins, he's been a really big impact player. He's shot several threes, and in their losses, he's kind of, disappeared. So I think for Kentucky to have a shot at upsetting Alabama, Brea's got to play well. Ortega's got to play well. I think Kentucky has to hit at least 12 3-pointers. Something they've been better at recently, but Jackson Robinson is a huge part of that, and without him, point production it might be tough.
So Mark Pope has done an admirable job of keeping this team afloat. Duct tape, Band-Aids, whatever you can to put guys out on the floor.
Brilliant offensive coach.
I mean, they're in there. But the reality is they need wins to avoid playing on Wednesday of the SEC tournament.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, I was looking at the standings yesterday and the projections, and right now, if Kentucky wins the games they're supposed to, they're still going to play in the first game on Wednesday at the SEC tournament, which is wild. So it's just the league this year is crazy. And, down the stretch, I think Kentucky's probably projected to win 2 of its final 5 games. And you would think, a top 20 team would be able to at least get 1 bye at the conference tournament, but it's not looking like that so far.
Well, and I still think they're a very dangerous team because if you get Jackson Robinson and Lamont Butler back, and we said this, Tyler, we earlier before you came on the show, I was telling Scott that I was on another program in the state of Tennessee yesterday, and they were asking me about projecting the SEC and what I thought, and I said, well, there's 9 teams that have, I think, separated themselves, and there's a group of 7, and I think because I'm not of the opinion that the SEC will get 12 or 13. I think it'll be 11. I think Vanderbilt, who the Wildcats just dispatched, and then to me Texas has got a shot with the way their schedule sets up a little bit to be those last 2. And then I said Kentucky, of course, is in that top 9. But the crazy part is somebody like Kentucky, Mississippi State, who's got a really good basketball team, a team of that ilk that's in the top 20 could end up playing on Wednesday. And yet, to me, when you look at the metrics, they could still be a top 5 seed, which is insane.
I know it's wild this year, and it's almost just about the draw,
Right.
Yeah, it would be terrible if Kentucky had to play on Wednesday because that's one more game you'd have to play. But as long as the draw favors Kentucky, obviously you don't want to be on the top part of the bracket because that's going to be Auburn. You're going to have to face Auburn eventually. But the way the projections have it now, it'd be Kentucky versus South Carolina in the first round, and then if they make it, they beat South Carolina, Ole Miss. It's going to be wild this year in Nashville. It's still so weird for me to look at the new bracket with 4 games on Wednesday.
I know.
It's crazy. And the fact that 2 ranked teams could be playing on Wednesday is wild. So I'm ready for it, though. Bring it on.
What's been the reaction? Mark Pope, like I said, he's doing it. He's getting it done. He's getting wins. I know it's been up and down, but what's been the reaction in Lexington to his year 1?
I think people are still really excited. I mean, you have to give them some kind of grace because of the injuries they're dealing with. And it's wild. The story of the season has kind of been Kentucky's lost the games they shouldn't lose, but they've won the games they shouldn't win. I mean, as upset as you could get over the Arkansas loss and maybe the Texas loss, they swept Tennessee. They beat Duke.
Yes.
They have these huge, huge wins. So
Kansas.
I think they're 7-1 against AP top 15 teams, and that's better than any team in the country. So I think in the overall picture, you have to be really excited about that. I mean, yes, there's some growing pains and there's a learning curve for Pope kind of coming into the SEC, and you're seeing all of these players who transferred from other conferences having to adjust to that physical style of play. But yeah, I think given the injuries and the big wins, people are still thrilled.
Yeah, I would agree with that. No question about it. I think they've done remarkable job. I think he's an outstanding offensive coach. It was a really high-level game when they beat Alabama. When Alabama beat Kentucky in Rupp, and that doesn't happen often. And we talked about how with the tradition of Kentucky basketball, Alabama has a chance to do something they haven't done very often, that sweep Kentucky. But it's not going to be easy because I admire the fact that the way they handled Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt hasn't been nearly as good on the road, but still, when you're down a couple guys and his creativity shows, he and his staff. And I know they've also got some defensive limitations that they've had to work around, Tyler.
Yeah, and they're getting better on defense. I mean, a big part of that, like I said, is you don't have Lamont Butler, who's unquestionably the best defensive player on the team. He kind of sets the tone. But yeah, against Vanderbilt, there were so many things Kentucky did wrong in the first matchup versus Vanderbilt. They really just kind of put those pieces back together on Wednesday night. And just to be able to have a comfortable win against a good Vanderbilt team, it was a morale booster that I think every Kentucky fan kind of needed coming off of that loss to Texas. Kentucky all those bad habits kind of came out in that loss in Austin. And so to be able to cruise to a 20-point win kind of made everybody breathe a sigh of relief.
All right. That key for a victory for Kentucky tomorrow, do you think, Tyler?
They've got to hit at least 12 threes. I mean, it's just, well, I think they had 11 in the loss to Alabama at Rupp, and I think Alabama had 13. So either way, it's going to be a really fun game to watch. I mean, there may not be a lot of defense play, but it should be a foot race.
Well, I will say this: I'm going to need a sedative or something if Alabama doesn't guard any better. I mean, my God. I mean, but I will say Kentucky, even after the game against Bama, though, and let me correct myself. I was thinking of my Blue Devils who lost to Kansas. Kentucky and Kansas did not play this year, but Kentucky it goes to Norman, Oklahoma, and to me that's a very winnable game because Porter Mosier, those guys are struggling. There could be a coaching change there, so that is a winnable road game for Kentucky after they face the Crimson Tide, and then down the stretch in March. Certainly, Auburn is going to be a very tough opponent coming into Rupp, but it's Rupp Arena, so I do think. That'll be an electric environment. I do think Kentucky has a puncher's chance in that game. Then, of course, no disrespect to LSU, I think that's a win in Rupp for Kentucky. Then the end of the regular season, that's going to be interesting because that might be a game, Tyler, against a Missouri team on the road where you're trying to stay out of Wednesday.
Yeah, how about Missouri? I mean, I don't think anybody saw them coming in and doing as well as they have. And kudos to Dennis Gates. Mark Pope has done incredible in his first season at Kentucky, but Gates would get my vote as SEC Coach of the Year right now. That's going to be a really interesting game. Obviously, the end of the season, there's a chance that players could look ahead to the tournament, but I think Kentucky's going to be zeroed in on that. I really worry about that game. Kentucky hasn't played great on the road this year, but Missouri can put up points, so we'll see. I'll worry about that one when we get there. We got Alabama tomorrow.
Absolutely.
All
It's
right.
a huge one. And as Tyler Thompson has said, they got to make 12 threes. They got to shoot it. And then, if Alabama's defensive struggles continue, this Kentucky team, even down a couple of outstanding players like Lamont Butler, potentially, and as we've said, their lineup isn't whole, but they're still very, very potent. No question about that. And we know that this is a very capable Kentucky team, even with the injuries that they've had to Jackson Robinson and, of course, their leader, Lamont Butler. Well, Tyler, we appreciate it. Let everybody know how to follow you guys on Kentucky Sports Radio. We really always enjoy the conversation.
Absolutely. You can follow us at Kentucky Sports Radio, .com, or you can follow me on Twitter at Mrs. Tyler KSR.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Tyler.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, let's get that break in. Wrap it all up next.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Haven't picked up anything new accident-wise. Our last reported accident was Darwin and Macon Lane. That one was an injury type. Everything else from earlier should be clear. You be careful. We're going to have a significant amount of folks headed in last-minute dash mode this morning. Do you know who to call when you need a heart doctor? You could write it down now so you have it in the future. Dr. Randall Burns is at Huntsville Heart Specialists on Bob Wallace Avenue. Captain Nick in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
We aren't a winning school. We are a championship school, and we make legends. Join the Crimson Tide as they look to continue to rise to the top of the NCAA basketball mountain. Every game, all season, right here on your home for Alabama basketball, the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
This segment of Talkin' Ball is brought to you by University Kia, the #1 volume Kia dealer in the state of Alabama, located online at universitykia.com.
It's time for tomorrow's headlines today with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Let's get out to the phone lines. Let's go Steeler Mike real fast. Good morning, Steeler Mike.
Morning.
What's going on? How we doing this morning, gentlemen?
We're doing good.
Excellent to hear. Got a question, Drew. Just talk about what Huntsville does next year in basketball as far as rebuilding, obviously losing all those guys. Unbelievable year.
Yep.
I'm proud of those guys from high school down the street from me. Just seeing what you thought about that. And the other thing is Auburn's got Ole Miss, Kentucky, A&M, and Alabama other than Georgia this weekend. Your thoughts on Auburn down the stretch?
I still think
guys have a blessed weekend.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Stu. I still think Auburn's in a great spot. I mean, they're going to be really tough to beat at Neville Arena. That's a dangerous road game. They're two dangerous ones. Kentucky, because they're really good in Rupp,
and Texas A&M.
And Texas A&M is just stylistically a tough matchup. They're really good in Reed Arena. So we'll see what happens there. I still think Auburn has a chance to potentially run the table. At worst, maybe be 16-2, which means they're still the runaway #1 overall seed. They're very close to wrapping that up. And I know they didn't play their best against Arkansas, but I wouldn't be overly concerned about that. Huntsville High, I would just watch for Big Evan Toms. I mean, he'll be a rising junior. He's going to be the guy in the middle now on the post. And then a young guy, he didn't play very much yesterday. He was situationally on defense. But Trayvon Pinnell, the nephew of Deontay Wood, number 11, extremely athletic kid. I think he's got a chance to be one of those next guys. You've got a couple of the Gossett brothers, Hudson Gossett, who will be back. Certainly Graham Gossett, who will be a sophomore. They're going to grow exponentially. A kid named Cam Carney, number 10, he played yesterday as well. He has a chance to continue to get better and come into his own and have a bigger role next year. David Harrison, who was dressing for the varsity as well. He's the youngest brother of Caleb Harrison. He's about 6'6". He has a chance to be a good player, needs to continue to get in the gym and develop. But I do think Huntsville has some really nice pieces returning. We'll see. Certainly not going to have the length, size, and depth that they had this year. But certainly Christian Swears does a remarkable job, he and his coaching staff, Todd Jeffers and the crew, and Caleb Brown, of developing players. And so this next wave will still be really good, I think.
All right, we've put 5 days of work in, so we're going to go home for 2. We're done for the week. We'll be back at it Monday morning talking about, we've got UAH basketball tomorrow.
Brandon says you look exhausted.
I'm tired. I didn't lay down till 2, but I still got in here. I still got up at 5.
Eagle Masonry and Insulation. It's right there in the name. Eagle is your one-stop shop for block, stone, or brickwork, monument signs, and outdoor kitchens and fireplaces. Eagle also offers the finest craftsmanship and insulation, including fiberglass or spray foam insulation, and of course, insulation removal. Philip Love and his team have years of experience, bringing the region the best in masonry and insulation services. For more information and a quote, visit insulatewitheagle.com or call 256-755-50.